Good morning and welcome to Live from FM 91, conversation and performance with some of the area's finest musicians and visiting guest artists. I'm your host, Brad Cresswell, and we're coming to you today from the Dana Performance Studio at WGTE. Well, I feel like the stars have aligned for Valentine's Day week because we have not only the two stars of Toledo Opera's Romeo and Juliet in the house, we also have the conductor and the director, and we're going to talk with the two stars, Kathryn Lewek as well as Zach Borechevsky, first, because you guys have, a great story to tell. I know you've told it before, but we want to hear your story of how you fell in love, basically, with each other. It happened right here at Toledo Opera, yeah?
Sure did, and we are the star-crossed lovers. That's the other thing about the star aspect of this morning.
But also we should back up and say that we actually met for the first time in Verona, Italy, which is where Romeo and Juliet is set.
Yeah.
Yes, but then we were singing an opera together here in Toledo, Lucia di Lammermoor. And that is when we fell in love with each other.
2015.
Stage.
So what was the difference in time between when you met and when you fell in love?
I guess about 2 years it was.
A little less than that.
We were Facebook friends.
We didn't talk very much.
No, not really. We sort of exchanged a few memes back and forth. The big thing then was the Minions, the Minion movies.
How big it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was sort of like our first little funny bonding thing.
That's nice.
Yeah, we're very dramatic on stage, but actually we live most of our lives on Goofy Island.
Yeah. Well, and you have two children, right?
We do. Yeah. We do indeed. The goofiness actually really helps with that.
We have come since then. That was 2015 that Lucia was, so that's a little while ago now.
And we were married in 2017. And then we had our daughter, Mackenzie, in 2018. And then we had Charlie, our son, during the pandemic, 2021.
Wow. Well, we should mention that the opera is happening, actually opening tonight, as a matter of fact, at the Valentine Theater. It's tonight, Friday, February 16th at 7:30 p.m. Also on Sunday, there's a matinee, Sunday the 18th at 2 p.m. This is all happening in the Valentine Theater. Tickets have been going very fast, so if you want to get an opportunity to see this amazing opera sung by two amazing singers, you can find that at toledoopera.org. You can call the box office at 419-255-SING. So we're talking about Romeo and Juliet, and I've also got the director and the conductor here. I know that it's based on the Shakespeare play, but there are some differences between the opera and the play itself. James, you were the director. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the differences between the two?
Sure. So the opera is really quite streamlined. I mean, Romeo and Juliet as a play is a really compact and fast, energetic work. But the opera focuses even more on the pair of lovers. It's almost like sort of an elongated duet over the course of the entire evening, with just little episodes that creep in and affect the course of the drama. Yeah. There are a few characters who have been added who are not in the Shakespeare, and we see a little bit less of the Montagues than we see in the Shakespeare, but otherwise it's really quite true to the play. And there are a lot of places where the text of the libretto is almost exactly a translation of the Shakespeare.
That's so interesting.
It follows really closely.
Yeah, that's very interesting because, a lot of composers have been inspired by Shakespeare, and oftentimes they go off the map, as it were. They change the story, they make it completely different, so it's not recognizable anymore. But this is definitely a recognizable story, enhanced by the fact that we have Kathryn Lewek singing it for the very first time. How many times have you been here at Toledo Opera?
This is my fifth role debut here.
Your fifth role debut?
Yes.
Here. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's
sort
incredible.
Of your home away from home.
It really is. This is the place that I like to come to try out new things that I'm thinking about adding to my repertoire. And I just, it's like a gem of a little gem of a company filled with people that I love. And it also helps that a lot of my father's side of the family actually lives in Michigan, not too far from here. So, I get to see my family. I get to have sort of a built-in claque. So even if the role debut doesn't go well, they all make me think that it does. So, it's really good for my heart, soul, and confidence.
Well, I heard you sing Violetta, not last season or the season before.
2 seasons ago, I think,
a couple of seasons ago. And it was fantastic, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
We really look forward to your role debut as Juliet. Now, Zach, you've done Romeo before, right?
Yes, I actually sang it, but it's 10 years ago now. I sang it in Arizona and also in Santiago, Chile, of all places.
So now you're a married couple. How does that play into your relationship with these characters?
We've had to go back, but it's nice to be able to be doing this here in Toledo because we have the sense memory of the place where we are being the same place where we had these same feelings that are really the focus of Romeo and Juliet's romantic relationship. I mean, it's experience touching her hand for the first time. Everything is new, and it was new when we were here, and so we just got to go back in time 10 years, and then we're set in our brains.
What do you think, Katie?
Yeah, for sure. I think that what Zach said about the sense memory, and that goes sort of both ways, not just the exciting fun parts of holding each other's hands and kissing for some of the first times and stuff like that, but also the fear that comes with falling in love with someone. Like they don't call it falling in love for no reason. Mm-hmm. It can also be a very terrifying experience, and I think that is built into this story as well, especially because of the fact that their families are feuding, and there's this sort of terrible history that goes back for however many generations, and that's a very much a part of them and how they were brought up. And so then to have this discovery, there's this really incredible moment in Act 1 where Juliet discovers that she says, well, what's that guy's name that I just had this lovely interaction with? Yeah. And she finds out it's Romeo, and this, it's like just the word Romeo sends this incredible chill through her body. Yeah. And she is very wise beyond her years. She's actually supposed to be just shy of 14 years old. Mm. And yet she has this incredible intuition, which is enough to make her realize that once she learns that this man is named Romeo and that he's a Montague, it likely means death.
Yeah. Right, if you follow that path, which she doesn't feel like she has a choice, exactly. I imagine, at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I know that you guys drove out here from your home in Connecticut. What was that drive like? I mean, you were still studying the score?
That's exactly what it was.
Totally.
Katie does some of her, but I had it mostly memorized. I had to bring it back to my maestro and talk about how many lines I've forgotten and how many words I've forgotten. But I had it mostly in there, even though it was 10 years ago. But Katie, of course, her role debut was she's got to get all those French words in her brain. So we were just drilling back and forth a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, we have, since it is opening night, we're not going to have a lot of singing today, but you guys are going to sing a duet for us. Maybe one of you can introduce that duet. And I understand you've also brought some Shakespeare in that corresponds with the music that you're going to speak.
We brought the
for
source
us.
Material.
James was talking about the parallels between Gounod's libretto that he used and the original Shakespeare, and this scene is exactly that. I mean, all of the words and the poetic sentiment here is exactly the same. Romeo encounters Juliet for the first time and speaks to her for the first time, and this is exactly how it happens in the opera. And
let's get your acting chops on, and here we go.
Let's see.
If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle sin is this: my lips, two blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this: for saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss.
Have not saints lips, and holy palmers too?
Aye, pilgrim, lips that they must use in prayer.
Oh, then, dear saint, let lips do what hands do. They pray. Grant thou lest faith turn to despair.
Saints do not move, though grant for prayer's sake.
Then move not while my prayer's effect I take. Thus from my lips by thine my sin is purged.
Then have my lips the sin that they have took.
Sin from my lips, oh, trespass sweetly urged. Give me my sin again.
You kiss by the book.
Wow, I feel like we need to applaud that excerpt. from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. I have to say that it sounds much better in French, but when you sing it, we should mention that the opera is in French, but there are English super titles available, as there always are when we do something in a foreign language. But you're going to sing this duet for us now. What is it called in French, this whole scene?
Well, the big number is the madrigal, but this is the first line is Ange adorable, which is
Adorable angel. I mean, hello.
Angel worthy of adoration. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, let's hear it. Kevin Bylsma is at the piano. Soprano Kathryn Lewek as Juliet, and tenor Zach Borechevsky as Romeo, performing a duet from the first act of Charles Gounod's Romeo and Juliet here on FM 91. soprano Kathryn Lewek and tenor Zach Borechevsky performing the roles of Juliet and Romeo. That can be heard in person, live in person. I say this every time, but there's really nothing that compares to the thrill of a live performance, and seeing you guys perform this in our studio is such an exciting experience. And I think that our listeners, they don't get the full experience of the opera or even the music by just listening to it on the radio. I would urge folks, if you don't have your tickets and you want to see this special event at Toledo Opera, call them up, 419-255-SING, or go to their website. You can get tickets there as well, toledoopera.org. It's opening tonight at 7:30 p.m. There's also a matinee on Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. It's all at the Valentine Theater. Get your tickets at toledoopera.org. Kathryn and Zach, wonderful job. And, given the fact that I know, Kathryn, you've been running back and forth to Salzburg?
Yeah. I'm really I do not know what time it is ever anymore.
Yeah. That's the life of a world-famous opera singer, right?
I guess, yeah. You just got to kind of power through, and I rely a lot on melatonin.
Well, one person that we haven't heard from too much is Adam Turner, who is a conductor. You were last year, Adam, for Trovatore, right, by Verdi. And you've come back for Romeo and Juliet. Have you worked with this opera before?
I have. This is my third experience with the piece, but my first with these wonderful castmates. And under this direction.
Okay, they're not listening. So how have they been? How have they been during this rehearsal?
They've been
period?
Fantastic. In spite of what Zach said earlier about remembering all these words and whatnot, he's been fantastic. And having Katie to debut this role, it's just been fabulous. It's been wonderful.
Well, how much of the way that you conduct the music is related to what the singers, what the director have in mind to bring it to fruition on the stage? I mean, what's your role in that? What do you do?
Well, it's a constant cheerleader and supporter. I am constantly watching the stage and trying to be closely attuned to what serves the piece, what serves the drama unfolding. And there's so much underscoring. Our director, James, likes to talk about how cinematic the piece is, and I couldn't agree more. There are so many moments of just beautiful, sweeping, rapturous music that perfectly encapsulates the romance on the stage. And so our job in the pit with the Toledo Symphony, the fabulous orchestra, is to provide a really beautiful underscoring, but also to drive the drama and to help propel all the sword fights and all the tension.
So this is the first time you've all worked together. Yeah, I imagine everybody plays well with each other,
except when the swords come out.
Actually, this is very much not the first time that I've worked with James. James and I go way back. We actually went to Eastman School of Music together, and so we've known each other for like 20 years.
Wow!
And
you're both so young still.
We were kindergartners there. They have a preschool program, actually, and that's what we were in. I mean, he's a Renaissance man in every sense of the word. I mean, James, maybe you can be more accurate than I can, but I know you were a theory major when we met at Eastman, but you're also an accomplished pianist, and now you also have a directorial degree. And also, I mean, there's like so many other things, and also you need to mention the masks that you have made for this production. There are like a zillion of these handmade masks that he's been working so hard on.
Tell us about that. Yeah.
There are almost 70 masks that make it on stage over the course of the production. We have around 50 that are worn, and then there are some that are switched out. Some people wear more than one. And then there are also some that just come on as props. But I was saying to people in the tech crew the other day that it really is because I have to do something with my hands, and there will come a day when there are no more masks to work on, and I'll lose my mind. Because ever since I stopped playing piano so much, I've got to do something with my hands. So it was really a selfish thing to be able to create all of these masks. But I started out as a theory major and a pianist, but it was all really just because I wanted to be in opera somehow, and there was no undergraduate degree in what I wanted to do in opera. And so I started with theory because I just wanted to explore the music as much as possible and have an understanding of it. And then I ended up in collaborative piano, which is how I ended up working with Katie to begin with. And I was her pianist for a short while, and then started moving on into doing this, which has led me here, which is, it's very exciting to get to work with Kate again in this very different capacity. And to work with Katie and Zach, who together, apart, they are both incredibly funny people, but the two of them together, it just gets exponentially funnier. And so to be working on such a dramatic and tragic piece and yet have a rehearsal room that is so filled with laughter is just a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, some of that spills over, I'm sure, when appropriate, right? Let me ask you, Katie and Zach, working with a director that has a musical pedigree, I mean, is that different from working with a director that is ensconced in the theater, as it were? Do you know what I mean? Singing opera?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, also because of the fact that I know James so well as a human. He is so deeply knowledgeable about every aspect of this, you know, and I've worked with directors before who have walked into the room and have literally said the words, "Don't worry, I've seen an opera before."
My favorite opera is Phantom of the Opera.
Like, right, yeah. And to then, like, on the opposite end of the spectrum, this man is so intimately familiar with the Shakespeare play and basically every sort of film adaptation or stage adaptation that has come since. And then on top of it, of course, he has a deep knowledge of it musically. So, yeah, it's there isn't a question that he can't answer. And in fact, I think I've annoyed him quite a few times saying, okay, but like, what about this and what about that? And at some point the other day, he kind of said, well, you know, also you make decisions.
It is part of the whole process of telling the story, though, that's really fun, because I walked in on the first day of rehearsal with the chorus and I said, raise your hand if you read this play in high school. And every single hand went up. And working in opera, that's not often the case, that everyone comes to the story with such an early knowledge of it. And so it really makes for a really rich creative experience when you have someone like Adam conducting, who has already done the piece 3 times and comes to it with, you know, not just one way of doing it, but options and flexibility and this eye for what's happening on the stage. And then all of the actors are bringing not just their knowledge of it from reading it, but also most of them have seen multiple adaptations. And so we all, you know, there's power in the stories that we choose to tell, and there is some reason that we keep coming back to Romeo and Juliet over and over and over again. It's it is a piece that has captivated us as, you know, as humans for such a long time. And I think that's because there are such important elements in it that everybody can relate to. Growing up, rebelling against your parents, falling in love for the first time, being in a community that is torn apart. And like, there's just so many things for us all to gravitate to. And so seeing everybody sort of, you know, bring their interpretation and their perspective on that has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Wow. Spoken like a wonderful director. Bravo to you. Adam, let me ask you about some of the other singers in the cast, because obviously there are more characters than just the title roles. We had Sydney Outlaw on a podcast that we do a couple of days ago, on Valentine's Day, in fact. Sydney sings the role of Mercutio. I have a little problem with that name for some reason. And there are other singers as well. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the supporting cast.
Yeah, also Matt Bowler in the role of Friar Lawrence. And then there's a role, there are a few roles that are created for this piece. Stefano, which is kind of a sidekick as well. And then there's also a huge chorus, so beautifully prepared by Kevin Bylsma. This is a fabulous chorus you have in Toledo.
That's where the masks come in, right?
All the masks come in. I want one of these masks.
I know. What happens to them after the production?
They get loaded into my car, and then who knows?
And never to be seen again in Toledo.
Your whole house has new decor.
Yeah.
No, the opera begins with a really, you know, intense little overture, but then immediately the chorus takes center stage, and so that what James mentions about this community, that really the role of the chorus in this piece is superb and profound.
Yeah. Well, you had a big chorus in the last opera you did, Trovatore, here.
I did. Somehow I get really lucky. I had a great cast then. I have an even better cast this time, and
we
both
won't
times.
tell the first cast.
Don't tell them. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, as we wrap up the show today, I want to thank all of you for coming in. But I wonder, Kathryn and Zach, if you can just, since it is Valentine's Day week, and we're opening the show with that in mind, how has this affected your relationship, or has it even played at all into your role in real life as husband and wife?
Well, the story, of course, has enabled us to relive the emotions of being together for the first time. But it's bittersweet with us here in Toledo because, of course, we have 2 kids now who are 5 and 2, and so we're away from them. This is the longest we've ever both been away from them at the same time. So it is, we're feeling they're missing right now. But when they're away, we get to be a couple again, like we were in the beginning, without
it's
any
sort of like a long date night, right?
Exactly. It's an extra long date night.
It's like a honeymoon where we also get to go to rehearsal and hang out with our friends every day.
Yeah. We watched one of my favorite movies, Tip Top, last night as a Valentine's Day special, which is also Valentine's themed. It's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Everybody should watch that movie as well.
Oh, yeah.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, I remember that one. I also remember back in high school watching the Zeffirelli version of Romeo and Juliet and having a crush for weeks on Olivia Hussey after seeing that. But it's a wonderful opportunity for folks not to only experience the opera, but also to experience the whole dynamics of everything that went into it. That's part of what we try to do with these shows and with these conversations, is give people a little backstage look at what goes into creating this opera. We've only scratched the surface, really. But I want to thank soprano Kathryn Lewek, who is performing the role of Juliet, and her Romeo, her real-life husband, Zach Borechevsky, tenor, as well as Kevin Bylsma at the piano. Kevin is sort of our resident pianist. I also want to thank James Mitchell, who is our director for the show, and also to Adam Turner, who is returning to Toledo Opera and conducting the program. It's happening tonight at 7:30 p.m. and Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. in the Valentine Theater. Limited tickets available. You can get your tickets at ToledoOpera.org or call them up directly. The box office number is 419-255-SING. Thank you guys so much for appearing on Live from FM 91 today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Live from FM 91. The broadcast engineer for our program is Logan Cooney. I'm your host and producer, Brad Cresswell. Thanks for joining us today. You're on your public radio station, FM 91.